crack open a book, 200 pages in, maybe 3. You tell yourself you'll finish it tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes never. The bookmark stays frozen at page 183. You buy another book. The cycle repeats. You're not lazy. You're not broken. Your brain has been rewired. And the culprit is not what you think. 52% of American adults did not finish a single book in the last year. Words Rated surveyed 2,003 people in 2022. 52%, that is 104 out of every 200 adults. But here is the part nobody talks about. Of those who start books, nearly 1/3 abandon them before page 50. According to Jellybooks, the industry's leading reader analytics firm that tracks hundreds of titles with 200 to 500 test readers each, only 25 to 50% of nonfiction readers finish the books they start. Completion rates above 50% are considered very good. Rates above 75% are called exceptional. Exceptional. That means finishing a book is now extraordinary. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt sat at number 37 on the bestseller list in 2014. It won the Pulitzer Prize. Kobo tracked the data. 44% of readers who started it actually finished. 44. 12 years. A Slave by Solomon Northup was bought widely in 2014 because of the film. 28% completion rate. 28. Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner, wrote Thinking Fast and Slow. Jordan Ellenberg, a mathematician, compared highlighted passages at the beginning versus the end. 7% of readers finished it. 7%. Thomas Piketty wrote Capital in the 21st century. It was praised everywhere. Almost nobody finished it. Your brain evolved to survive, not to read 300-page books about economic theory. For 200,000 years, your ancestors scanned for threats, hunted for food, avoided predators. Attention was a survival tool. Notice the rustling grass, spot the berry bush, track the herd. These tasks rewarded quick shifts. Find food, get dopamine. Spot danger, get adrenaline. Move to the next thing. The brain built reward pathways for rapid task switching. Deep, sustained focus on a single object for hours was not part of the evolutionary program. Then we invented writing, then printing presses, then novels that take 12 hours to read. We asked the brain to do something it was never designed for. Sit still, focus on black symbols on white paper for hours. No immediate reward, no dopamine hit. Just delayed gratification. Maybe you will enjoy the ending. Maybe, in 3 weeks. The average attention span dropped from 12 seconds in the year 2000 to 8.25 seconds today. Microsoft Canada studied 2,000 Canadian young adults in 2015 using electroencephalograms to track brain activity. 12 seconds down to 8. That is shorter than a goldfish, which clocks in at 9 seconds. The year 2000 marks when mobile phones became widespread, when the internet went portable, when every notification, every text, every email, every social media ping delivered a micro hit of dopamine directly into your ventral striatum. Dopamine is not pleasure. That is the myth. Dopamine is anticipation. It is the wanting, not the having. It is the neurotransmitter that says something good might happen next. When you check your phone and see 3 new messages, dopamine floods your reward circuits before you even read them. The possibility of reward triggers the spike. Dr. Anna Lemke, psychiatrist at Stanford, published Dopamine Nation in 2021. She explains that our brains evolved in an environment of scarcity. Food was rare. Mating opportunities were limited. The dopamine system evolved to make us pursue these scarce rewards aggressively. But now we live in an environment of abundance. Dopamine abundance. Every app, every platform, every device is engineered to trigger that anticipation spike. Not once a day. Once every 5 minutes. Once every minute. Jonathan Haidt documented in The Anxious Generation, published 2024, that young people receive an average of 192 notifications per day. If they sleep 7 hours, that is 11 notifications per waking hour. 1 every 5 minutes. Some heavy users get a notification every single minute of every waking day. Your phone is a slot machine in your pocket. Variable ratio reinforcement schedule. B.F. Skinner discovered this in the 1950s with rats. Put a rat in a box with a lever. Give it a food pellet every time it presses the lever. The rat presses steadily, but not obsessively. Now switch the schedule. Make it random. Sometimes the lever gives a pellet after 2 presses, sometimes after 10, sometimes after 50. The rat cannot predict when the reward comes. The rat presses the lever 700 times in an hour. 700. It will choose the lever over food. It will choose the lever over sex. It will press until exhaustion, until starvation. This is not a metaphor. This is your relationship with your phone. You pull to refresh your email. Sometimes there is a message. Sometimes nothing. Sometimes 3 messages. You cannot predict, so you keep refreshing. Instagram feed, TikTok scroll, Facebook notifications. Every refresh is a lever press. Every like is a pellet. The algorithm makes sure you never know when the next reward drops. The anticipation keeps you locked in. If you value documented neuroscience and behavioral psychology like this, subscribe. It is the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you are hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Journal of the Association for Consumer Research at the University of Chicago, published in 2017, studying smartphone cognitive capacity, current psychology. From Springer Nature on dopamine effects, published October 17, 2021, and a comprehensive systematic review on short-form video addiction, published in August 2025 in the MedRxiv preprint server, covering 98,299 participants across 71 separate papers. Now, back to the information. Yuan Gao and colleagues at Tianjin Normal University published research in neuroimage in 2025. They ran MRI scans on college students. They measured gray matter volume. Students who scored high on short video addiction showed increased volume in the orbitofrontal cortex. That is the brain region involved in reward processing. They also found increased volume in the cerebellum, emotional regulation center. These were not small changes. These were structural alterations visible on brain scans. The students also showed heightened activity in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex during tasks. That region is supposed to maintain cognitive control. But in addicted users, it works harder just to maintain baseline function. The brain is literally being remodeled by patterns of digital consumption. Reading a book is low dopamine, deeply low. A book does not ping you, it does not flash, it does not autoplay the next chapter. You turn the page, you get words, and then more words. No variable reinforcement, no surprise rewards, just predictable text, sentence after sentence. For hours, your dopamine system, trained on TikTok videos that change every 9 seconds, looks at a book and says, no thank you. The research team led by Chen and colleagues in 2022 used eye tracking technology and the Stroop task. They compared users addicted to short-form videos versus non-addicted users. Addicted users had higher fixation counts but shorter average fixation duration. They could not hold attention. Their eyes jumped around. In the Stroop task, where you name the color of the ink, not the word, addicted users showed longer response times and lower accuracy. Their inhibitory control, the ability to suppress automatic responses, was compromised. The prefrontal cortex controls executive function, planning, inhibition, task switching, sustained attention. This region does not fully mature until age 25. In adolescence, it is still under construction. Every notification fragments the construction process. Every scroll trains the brain to expect rapid reward cycling. William James wrote in the 19th century, long before smartphones, about what happens when attention is constantly fragmented. He called it a confused, dazed, scatterbrained state. That was when the only distraction was a knock at the door. Now the door knocks 192 times a day. Here's what happens in your brain when you try to read after scrolling TikTok for 30 minutes. A study published in 2024 found that beta and gamma brainwave activity persists after short-form video use ends. Beta waves indicate active thinking. Gamma waves indicate intense focus. Except here they indicate residual overstimulation. Your brain is still buzzing from the last 50 videos. When you pick up the book, your alpha waves, which indicate relaxed attention, cannot establish dominance. Political or news content suppresses alpha wave recovery by 15 minutes, compared to lighter content like memes, 15 minutes before your brain can even begin to settle into reading mode. And that is if you do not check your phone again. Chong Liu and colleagues published research in neuroimage using a gambling task. Individuals with short video addiction symptoms showed reduced sensitivity to financial losses. They were more willing to take bad bets. The precuneus, a brain region for self-reflection and risk evaluation, showed decreased activity. Decision-making was impaired at a neurological level. The brain stops accurately computing cost versus benefit. It chases the next dopamine spike regardless of consequences. Books reward you slowly, chapter by chapter. Plot twist by twist. Emotional catharsis by emotional catharsis. This is called delayed gratification. The famous marshmallow experiment from the 1970s at Stanford tested this with children. Kid sits at a table. Researcher puts one marshmallow in front of them. The deal is simple. Wait 15 minutes without eating it. Get 2 marshmallows. Eat it now. Game over. Kids who waited showed better life outcomes decades later. Higher SAT scores, better jobs, healthier relationships. Delayed gratification predicts success. Except we have now trained an entire generation to never wait 15 minutes for anything. Why wait when the next video loads in 0.3 seconds? Lin and colleagues in 2024 studied sustained attention using the sustained attention to response task. Participants who consumed more short-form videos showed higher commission errors. They pressed the button when they were supposed to withhold. They showed greater reaction time variance. Their attention drifted. They could not hold focus. The ability to sustain attention is deteriorating measurably in heavy short video users. This is not a metaphor. This is quantified data. numbers on cognitive tests, reaction times in milliseconds, error rates in percentages. Attention is breaking down, the smartphone presence effect. Adrian Ward at the University of Texas published in the Journal of the Association for Consumer Research in 2017, participants did cognitive tasks. Some had their phones on the desk, some had phones in their pockets, some had phones in another room. The further away the phone, the better the performance. Not because they were using the phone. The phone was off, face down, silent. Just being near it drained cognitive capacity. The brain knows the phone is there. It knows rewards might be waiting. It allocates attentional resources to resisting the urge to check. Those resources are now unavailable for the task at hand. Reading your book. The phone does not even need to ring. Its mere presence hijacks your prefrontal cortex. A team at the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens tested this in 2024. They used the attention network test. Participants were split. One group had phones present, one group had phones removed. Phone present group showed worse attention control, slower reaction times, more errors. Smartphones drain working memory without you touching them. Clayton, Leshner, and Almond in 2015 found that forced separation from a ringing phone increases heart rate and anxiety. It decreases cognitive performance. You hear it ring. You cannot answer. Your brain panics. Cortisol spikes. Focus crumbles. Now imagine trying to read Chapter 7 of War and Peace while your phone vibrates in the next room. Leva and colleagues in 2012 studied within-phone interruptions. You open one app. Another app sends a notification. Task completion time increases by 400%. 400. You wanted to check the weather. Instagram pings. You swipe to Instagram. 15 minutes vanish. The richer the interruption, the worse the damage. An interruption with an image derails you more than just text. An interruption with video derails you even more. Levy and colleagues in 2016 confirmed this. Multimedia interruptions hit harder. Here's what happens when you sit down to read but keep your phone within reach. You read 3 pages. A notification vibrates. You ignore it. Good for you. Except your brain just burned glucose resisting that urge. You read 2 more pages. Another buzz? Ignore. More glucose. Another page. Phantom buzz? You check. Nothing there. But you checked. The book is now competing with an opponent that fires variable ratio pellets at random intervals. The book cannot win. The book delivers satisfaction on page 300. The phone delivers it in 30 seconds. Your dopamine system does not do long-term investment. It evolved for immediate survival. Grab the berry now or starve. The rats in the Skinner box would press the lever even after the pellets stopped coming. They kept pressing for hours, days. This is called resistance to extinction. Behaviors reinforced on a variable ratio schedule are the hardest to stop. Smokers trying to quit relapse because that first cigarette after weeks of abstinence delivers a massive dopamine surge. Gamblers keep playing after losing their mortgage because the next spin might be the jackpot. You keep checking your phone after getting 0 interesting notifications for an hour because the 11th check might have the text that makes your day. And you keep putting down the book at page 183 because the phone offers immediate relief from the discomfort of sustained focus. Books do release dopamine, just not enough, not fast enough. When you anticipate turning the page to see what happens next in a thriller, that anticipation generates a small dopamine pulse. Jim Quick, author and memory expert, documented this in a Medium article, February 24th, 2023. Bookworms report that thinking about the story triggers dopamine. Closing the book at night and anticipating the next reading session creates a mild dopamine drip, but compare that to scrolling. Every swipe might reveal something funny, shocking, sexy, outrageous, heartwarming, or enraging. Every single swipe. That is a dopamine fire hose. The book is a dopamine trickle. Social media platforms use the same architecture as gambling. Infinite scroll is not an accident. Autoplay is not a convenience. Personalized algorithms are not just helpful. They are weaponized behavior modification. The algorithm learns what makes you stop scrolling. Cat video? Stop. Outrage bait? Stop. Attractive person? Stop. It serves you that content in unpredictable intervals. You scroll through 10 boring posts, then 1 great post, scroll through 20 boring posts, then 2 great posts. Your brain cannot predict the pattern, so it keeps scrolling, hoping, anticipating, dopamine firing on the possibility of the next reward. Actual reward is optional. Anticipation is the drug. Hugh McGuire wrote on Medium in May 2025. He built his career on books. He cannot read anymore. He describes the mechanism clearly. New information creates a dopamine rush. The promise of new information makes your brain seek that rush. Brain scans show pleasure centers lighting up when emails arrive. Every new email is a dopamine hit. Every hit reinforces the memory that email checking equals dopamine. The brain seeks more dopamine. Neural pathways form, the behavior becomes unconscious. Work on something important. Brain itch, check email, dopamine, refresh. Dopamine, check Twitter, dopamine, back to work. brain itch. The loop becomes automatic. If you value documented neuroscience and attention research like this, subscribe. It is the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you are hearing this from. This script is researched and factual using sources including research published in Frontiers in Cellular Neuroscience in April 2025 on dopamine dynamics by Gershman and colleagues at Harvard, the University of Texas, Austin study on smartphone brain drain by Ward in the Journal of the Association for Consumer Research, June 2017, and the comprehensive meta-analysis published November 2024, linking TikTok and Instagram Reels to cognitive decline, covering 98,000 plus participants by Nguyen and team in Frontiers in Psychology. Now back to the information. Multitasking is a myth. Your brain does not do two things at once. It switches rapidly between tasks. Every switch costs energy. Every switch costs time. Studies show productivity drops by up to 40% when attempting to multitask. Not because you're bad at multitasking, because multitasking does not exist for complex cognitive tasks. David Meyer at the University of Michigan documented this. Task switching creates attention residue. Part of your attention stays stuck on the previous task even after you switch. You are reading a book. Phone pings, you check it. Reply to a text, return to the book. But your brain is still processing the text conversation. The social implications, the tone, the response you should have sent, that residual attention makes the next paragraph of the book harder to absorb. You read the words, they do not register. You read them again, still fuzzy. You have now read the same paragraph 3 times and retained nothing, so you quit. Not because the book is boring, because your cognitive resources are fragmented. Daniel Levitin wrote The Organized Mind. He explains that focused work uses less energy than task switching. People who structure their time for sustained focus get more done and feel less tired. The brain prefers depth, but we have trained it for shallows. Nicholas Carr wrote The Shallows in 2010. The internet changes the brain. Books train deep focus. Mobile devices train surface skimming. We peck at information. We hover over meaning. We never dive deep. When we receive information overload, the brain blocks it. But the blocked content does not evaporate. It lingers. It clogs. It prevents us from identifying what we actually want. Attention span suffers. We cannot filter signal from noise anymore. The default mode network in your brain activates when you're not focused on external tasks. Daydreaming, self-reflection, memory consolidation, creativity. The DMN is essential. Esterman and colleagues studied this. They had subjects perform visual recognition tasks. Moments of high reaction time variability were called out of the zone. Moments of low variability were in the zone. Out of the zone moments showed increased default mode network activity. The brain was wandering, but wandering is not always bad. Studies on film viewing show that narrative comprehension requires DMN activation. The brain needs to integrate information, make connections, predict outcomes. But when DMN activates during reading because you're bored, it pulls you away from the text. Your mind wanders to your grocery list, your argument from yesterday, your plans for Friday. The book loses you. You finish the page and realize you absorbed nothing. This happens repeatedly. By page 183, you give up. Here's the brutal part. The more you train your brain on short-form content, the harder long-form content becomes. Neuroplasticity cuts both ways. Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together wire together. Every time you choose TikTok over a book, you strengthen the TikTok pathway and weaken the book pathway. Pathways that are not used atrophy. The neural circuits for sustained reading literally shrink from disuse. A study out of Tianjin Normal University by Professor Chang Wang used MRI scans. Heavy short video users showed reduced gray matter volume in regions linked to executive control and memory. Reduced volume. The brain physically changes. You are not weak-willed. Your brain architecture has been altered. Kids are even more vulnerable. Frontal cortex development happens throughout childhood and adolescence. Sustained attention at 5 months old predicts executive function at 10 months. Executive function at 10 months predicts reading achievement at 6 years. A longitudinal study published in PMC tracked this. Early attention is foundational. If you give a child a smartphone at age 7, you disrupt the construction process. The brain is learning how attention works. If attention means jumping between stimuli every 10 seconds, that becomes the default. The child may never develop the neural infrastructure for reading a novel. By age 15, only 15% of 15 to 17-year-olds read frequently. Pew Research Center documented this. Reading for fun is at the lowest level since the mid-80s. Gen Z reads about 4 books per year. Boomers read about 10. Millennials start books at double the rate they finish them. They recognize their limited time. They choose activities that deliver immediate satisfaction. Sleep suffers too. Blue light from screens suppresses melatonin. Melatonin regulates sleep onset. Scrolling before bed delays sleep by 90 minutes on average. Circadian rhythm gets disrupted. The brain thinks it is daytime. It stays alert. You lie awake, overstimulated. The next day, you are tired. Cognitive function drops. Attention suffers more. You pick up the book. Your exhausted brain cannot engage. Reading feels like pushing a boulder uphill. You put the book down. Scroll Instagram for dopamine. The cycle continues. Social comparison makes it worse. You see someone on Book Talk who read 70 books this year. You feel inadequate. Envy activates. Research from Tianjin Normal University found that dispositional envy correlates with short video addiction. People who agreed with statements like, "I strive to reach other people's superior achievements," were more likely to show addiction symptoms. Envy drives consumption. Consumption alters brain structure. Altered brain structure reduces attention. Reduced attention makes reading harder. You see the Book Talk person and feel worse. You doom scroll instead of reading. You are trapped. Emotion dysregulation plays a role. Kierkegaard and colleagues in 2024 studied problematic media consumption. They found emotion dysregulation and an impulsivity drive compulsive viewing. People use short videos to cope with distress. The videos provide temporary relief, but they do not solve the underlying problem. They just delay it. Meanwhile, the coping mechanism rewires reward circuits. The brain learns that distress equals open TikTok, not distress equals read a book for catharsis. Books used to be emotional regulation tools. Fiction lets you experience vicarious emotions safely. You cry with the character, you feel their triumph. You process your own feelings through the story. This is slow, it takes hours. Short videos offer faster emotional hits. Funny video, dopamine. Sad video, catharsis in 9 seconds. The brain chooses efficiency, depth loses. Zhang and Ma in 2024 found that even brief TikTok exposure reduces analytic thinking. It promotes intuitive, low-effort processing. Cognitive load theory explains this. Short videos overwhelm the brain's capacity to chunk and integrate information. The speed and density fragment encoding. You get shallow processing. Reduced transfer to long-term memory. You watch a video, it is interesting. 10 videos later, you cannot remember the first one. Reading encodes differently. You read a paragraph. Your brain processes syntax, vocabulary, concepts. It integrates with prior knowledge. It predicts what comes next. It builds a mental model of the narrative world. This is deep encoding. This creates durable memories, but it is slow, effortful, glucose intensive. Your brain, optimized by evolution for energy efficiency, avoids effort when possible. The phone offers the path of least resistance. David and Roberts in 2024 found that TikTok use specifically, not Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, correlates with lower self-control. TikTok users showed greater phubbing behavior. Phubbing is ignoring people in favor of your phone. Self-control mediated the link. TikTok diminished self-control. Diminished self-control increased phubbing. Attention-shifting difficulties explained why users could not disengage. The app hooks you. Platform designers know this. They A/B test features to maximize engagement. Engineers at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the platforms, are optimizing for time on site. Watch time. Scroll depth. Every millisecond you stay is a data point. The algorithm adjusts. It gets better at holding you. The recommendation engine becomes more precise. It learns your triggers, your weaknesses, your curiosities. It exploits them, not maliciously. The system optimizes for a metric. The metric is engagement. You are the product being farmed for advertiser attention. Books cannot compete with industrial scale behavior engineering. Books are also being abandoned because ebooks track you. Amazon knows which page you stopped on. Kindle highlights show which passages readers mark. If everyone stops at chapter 4, the data reveals the problem. Kobo shared their data. Mystery genre completion rate is 62%. 62 is considered good. That means 38% of mystery readers quit before the end. For self-help books, the number is worse. Readers extract the main concepts early. They abandon the rest. One long, slow idea, researchers call it. The entire book could be a blog post. But publishers need 300 pages to justify the price point. So authors pad. Readers sense the padding. They quit. The educational system does not help. Kids are assigned books they do not choose. They are forced to read at a pace determined by the syllabus, not their interest. Reading becomes homework. Homework becomes punishment. By the time they are adults, reading is associated with obligation. Not pleasure, not escape, not growth. Just another task on a list. Combined with the dopamine rewiring from devices, reading never stands a chance. Literacy rates are dropping. 79% of US adults are literate as of 2024. That means 21% are functionally illiterate. 54% read below 6th grade level. 45 million Americans read below 5th grade level. These people cannot read a book even if they wanted to. The cognitive skills were never built, or they atrophied from disuse. The Pew Research Center found 33% of teenagers did not read a book for pleasure in the last year. 33%, 0 books. Leisure reading is at the lowest level since data collection began. This is not about IQ. This is about environment, about stimulation patterns, about neural pathway formation. The brain is plastic. It molds to the inputs it receives. Feed it TikTok, it becomes a TikTok brain. Feed it books, it becomes a book brain. We are feeding it TikTok. Now here is the reveal. A team at Jelly Books analyzed completion data across hundreds of titles. They found that most abandonment decisions happen in the first 50 to 100 pages. The opening is make or break. If the book does not hook the reader immediately, it is over. Not because readers are impatient, because their dopamine systems demand quick validation that the investment will pay off. A slow burn literary novel that builds for 200 pages before the payoff cannot survive. The reader's brain, trained on instant gratification, bails out. The best performing nonfiction books front load value. They deliver insights immediately. They structure for retention. Short chapters, clear sections, frequent payoffs. They gamify reading, and they achieve 75% plus completion rates. The books that fail try to be traditional. They build slowly. They trust the reader to be patient. The modern reader has no patience left. It was consumed by the attention economy. The real tragedy is not that people stop reading. The tragedy is what they lose. Reading literary fiction improves empathy. You inhabit another person's mind. You see through their eyes. You feel their pain. This builds theory of mind, the ability to understand that others have different perspectives. A study found that reading fiction for just 30 minutes increases emotional intelligence measurably. Reading also improves vocabulary. Kids who read 5 minutes daily encounter 282,000 new words per year. Words create concepts. Concepts create thoughts. Thoughts create reality. Limiting vocabulary limits thinking. Orwell wrote about this in 1984. Newspeak, he eliminated words to eliminate thoughts. If you cannot name a concept, you cannot think about it. We are voluntarily limiting our conceptual vocabulary by abandoning books. Reading reduces Alzheimer's risk. Lifelong readers show lower rates of dementia. The cognitive exercise of reading builds neural reserves. Use it or lose it applies to brains. Reading before bed improves sleep quality better than screens. 50% of people who read before sleep report better rest than non-readers. Reading reduces stress by 68% in just 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Faster than music, walking, or tea. The act of focusing on a narrative world lets the real world recede. Cortisol drops, heart rate slows. But you need to actually read, not skim, not check your phone between paragraphs. Actually read. Sustained, focused, absorbed. That mode of consciousness is becoming extinct. Here's what comes next if the trend continues. A generation that cannot read long form, cannot sustain attention, cannot delay gratification, cannot think deeply, cannot sit with discomfort, cannot tolerate boredom, cannot engage with complex ideas. Democracy requires informed citizens. Informed citizens require reading, policy documents, historical context, competing arguments, nuance. If the populace cannot read past page 50, they cannot evaluate policy. They rely on sound bites, memes, TikTok explainers, 30-second summaries that strip away all nuance. Truth becomes whatever fits in a tweet. Complexity dies. The public square becomes a shouting match of oversimplified slogans. This is not hypothetical. This is happening. But neurons that fire together, wire together, also means you can rewire. Neuroplasticity cuts both ways. You can rebuild the pathways. You can retrain your attention. It requires deliberate practice. Start small. 5 pages, 10 pages, 15 pages. No phone in the room. Not face down on the desk. In another room. Or in a drawer. Make the phone harder to access than the book. Build the habit slowly. The first week will hurt. Your brain will scream for the dopamine pellets. Ignore it. The second week will be easier. The third week, you might actually enjoy it. By the fourth week, you have rebuilt a neural pathway. Reading becomes possible again. Set a timer. 25 minutes. Pomodoro technique. Read for 25 minutes. No interruptions. When the timer goes off, take a 5-minute break. Check your phone if you must. Then go back. 4 cycles of 25 minutes is 100 minutes. You just read for an hour 40. That is 20 to 40 pages depending on density. Do this daily. You finish a 300-page book in a week, 52 books a year. You're now in the top 10% of readers. Choose books that reward you faster. Thrillers, mysteries, short story collections, graphic novels, poetry. Not every book needs to be infinite jest. Match the book to your current capacity. As your attention span rebuilds, you can tackle denser material, but start where you are, not where you think you should be. Join a book club. Social accountability works. If you committed to finishing the book before Thursday's meeting, you will finish it. The social pressure overrides the dopamine deficit. Plus, discussing the book adds another reward layer. You get to show off your knowledge, contribute insights, connect with people. These are social rewards. Social rewards also trigger dopamine. Stack the rewards, make reading social, track your progress. Goodreads, Storygraph, spreadsheet, Whatever works. Gamify it. Set a goal. 52 books this year. Check off each book. The progress bar fills. Visual progress triggers dopamine. You are hacking your own reward system, using gamification against the phone. Delete TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Not forever, just for 1 month. See what happens. Studies show that social media breaks improve mood, reduce anxiety, increase focus, and improve sleep. All of those improvements make reading easier. The first 3 days will be rough. Withdrawal is real. Compulsive checking. Phantom buzzes, itchy brain, push through. By day 7, your baseline anxiety drops. By day 14, you'll wonder how you ever thought you needed those apps. By day 30, your attention span will have measurably improved. Read physical books, paper, not ebooks. Paper has no notifications. Paper does not tempt you to highlight a passage and immediately share it on Goodreads and check how many likes it got. Paper is non-interactive in the best way. It just sits there, waiting. No distractions built in. Ebook readers are better than phones, but they still have dictionaries, highlighting, note-taking, all of which fragment attention. Paper forces single tasking, schedule reading time. Morning, evening, lunch break. Treat it like a meeting. It is on the calendar. It is non-negotiable. Protect that time. Turn off notifications. Close the door. Tell people you are unavailable. The book deserves your full attention. Anything less is disrespectful to the author and wasteful of your time. Understand that discomfort is part of the process. Your brain will resist. It will tell you the book is boring. It will generate excuses. You are too tired. This chapter is slow. You should check if that important email came in. These are lies. Your brain is a dopamine addict going through withdrawal. Addicts lie. Do not believe your brain. Read anyway. Slow reading is not failure. If you read 10 pages an hour, that is fine. If you read 5 pages an hour, that is fine too. Speed does not matter. Finishing matters. Depth matters. Comprehension matters. Literary critic Pierre Bayard wrote, "How to talk about books you have not read." He argues that not finishing books is acceptable, that skimming and selecting passages strategically is valid. He is right for his purposes. Cocktail party conversation, academic discourse. But if you want the cognitive benefits, the empathy expansion, the vocabulary growth, the Alzheimer's prevention, the stress reduction, you need to actually read, cover to cover, deeply, slowly, fully. Most people will not do this. Most people will keep scrolling. Most people will abandon books at page 183 forever. Most people will let their neural pathways atrophy. Their attention spans collapse. Their capacity for deep thought wither. But you do not have to be most people. You can choose differently. You can fight the tide. You can rebuild what was lost. It just requires deciding that the long-term reward of a read book is worth more than the short-term hit of a watched video. That decision is hard. That decision goes against everything your environment has trained you for. But that decision is available right now, today. You can close this, open a book, and read. Just read, no phone, no interruptions. Just you and the text for 25 minutes. If you can do that, you can do anything. A recent archaeological discovery in a Scandinavian bog uncovered a preserved medieval manuscript. Monks had copied it by hand, hundreds of pages, thousands of hours. No printing press, no electricity, just candlelight and discipline. The manuscript was a novel, a story, not sacred text, not a practical manual, just a story. Those monks believed the story mattered enough to spend months copying it. They believed future readers would value it. They believed words on pages could change a person. They were right. For 1,000 years, humans have read books. For 1,000 years, books have made humans wiser, kinder, deeper. That tradition is one generation away from extinction. You are that generation. The choice is yours. Read or scroll. Depth or shallow. Human or algorithm. The specific page where readers quit tells a story. Jellybook's data shows distinct patterns. Page 50 is the first major drop-off point. The reader gave it a chance. The opening did not deliver. They bail. Page 100 is the second cliff. The initial hook wore off. The middle sag appeared. No new payoff arrived. Page 180 is the third wall. Deep into the book, but not committed to finishing. This is where 3/4 of abandonments cluster. Between page 50 and page 200, the beginning and the middle, almost nobody quits after page 250. If you make it past the midpoint, you finish. The problem is not the ending. The problem is getting readers to the ending. Traditional publishing structured books for a different brain. The brain that could wait. Publishers assumed readers would persist. They built slow burns. Literary reveals at the 200-page mark. This worked for decades. It does not work now. The reader, at page 83, is simultaneously aware of 17 other books they could be reading. The opportunity cost of continuing feels massive. They switch. The abandoned book stays frozen. The economics reinforce this. Kindle Unlimited pays authors per page read, not per book sold. If a reader abandons your book at page 90, you get paid for 90 pages, not 300. Authors now optimize for page reads. They front-load hooks. They write shorter books, 200 pages instead of 400, because completion rates matter. A 200-page book with 90% completion earns more than a 400-page book with 40% completion. The market is selecting for brevity, for immediate gratification. The sprawling literary novel is becoming economically unviable. Publishers cannot sell what readers will not finish. The market adapts. Literature changes. But here's the final twist. The books that achieve high completion rates create passionate advocates. James Clear wrote Atomic Habits. Readers finish it. They recommend it. Millions of copies sold. Cal Newport wrote Deep Work. Readers finish it. It launched a movement. The pattern is clear. In a world where most books go unfinished, the books that do get finished dominate their markets. Completion creates advocacy. Advocacy creates sales. Sales create more books in that style. The cycle feeds itself. We are evolving a new species of book, optimized for the tick-tock brain, short, punchy, hook every page, value every chapter. This is not worse than the old style. It is different, adapted. Survival of the fittest applies to information. Books that cannot hold attention do not survive. Books that can thrive. You're reading this right now. You made it to the end. You sustained attention for however long this took. That means your brain still has the capacity. It is not broken. The neural pathways for sustained attention still exist. They are just covered in weeds. Clear the weeds. Use the paths. The capacity returns. The book at page 183 is waiting. Pick it up, turn the page, keep reading until you reach the end. That moment of silence after closing the back cover, that processing, that is what the book offers. That is what the scroll cannot give. The book waits at page 183. It always will.